Hi, I'm Jim Gordon.
And I'm Lita Leapin.
And welcome to another edition of Our City Tonight. Lita, where are we right now?
We are on our way up to Cypress Bowl, and you've got a beautiful view of our city behind us, Downey Park, downtown, as well as North Van.
Yeah, we're going to head back downtown to talk to musical icon Colin James after you watch this.
This segment is sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
Down on the bottom, no place to go but up. I was been in trouble.
His career has spanned over 30 years with a track record that includes 20 studio albums, 7 Juno Awards, 27 Maple Blues Awards, multiple platinum record sales. His latest album, you're looking at the title track right there, the video for Open Road. We should also mention our guest is doing, and we're fingers crossed everything's going to stay okay, a cross-country tour of Canada, of course, which includes a March 11th stop here in Vancouver, other BC dates. He'll also be touring the States with Buddy Guy. It is a great pleasure to welcome one of our own, singer-songwriter, bluesman extraordinaire, Colin James. Welcome to Our City Tonight.
Hello.
Hey.
Good to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you on. Now, you just released your third album in what you like to call the Blues Tribute series, Open Road, which is released last fall to great reviews already. How did you choose the songs for this album?
Well, like any other record, I mean, sometimes I'm going through songs I've always loved that I've kept in my back pocket and never got to. I usually throw a lot of stuff at the wall when it comes to making a record. I don't usually go in and record exactly what's going to be there. I overshoot. I'll do 10 to 12 songs that will never make the record, usually a record. And then you just try to figure out whether it's doing the song any favors. You know, is your voice or your treatment of it bringing something new to the song? Usually that's the question. Those are the questions I ask, and if the answer is no, then it gets left off. And that's and then you try to find diversity within the tempos and just what the song brings.
Colin, so many great stages creatively to your career over the decades. And your early days with Stevie Ray Vaughan and the influence of that, and looking at some of the great artists, Lee and I were just salivating over some of the people that you have worked with, people that I love, like Mavis Staples and the Staple Singers and Maria Muldaur. With your blues history, do you feel this, and I hope that the answer is yes, but do you feel this need to continue that tradition along? Because so many of the greats are gone, and this is an art form we never want to see go away because there's no one left to play it.
Yeah, I suppose there's some element of that. I mean, even now, I mean, I was lucky enough to catch Muddy Waters. I almost didn't catch Muddy Waters. I almost didn't go the night I went and saw Muddy Waters, which is crazy to think of now. And James Cotton and Pine Top Perkins and Sonny Rhodes and, a lot of the second generation Chicago blues artists are gone. And there's a lot of people out doing it, but I think there's always room for people who really love the music to put that kind of energy and shine a light on their heroes. And it is a kind of a passing of the ball, the styles and the traditions of the blues. And, so I feel privileged to be able to, as a kid, when I was 16, 17 years old, I fell in love with the medium and, hoped that maybe one day I could make a mark on it in some way. And I always felt doubtful, to be honest with you, because, being in the North Saskatchewan, where I'm from, didn't exactly seem like a likely possibility. And, having been able to play with Albert Collins and see what a genius he was on the guitar, I mean, it was just no one else like him, still isn't.
Now, last year was smaller tours, smaller venues. With the new tour, what can fans expect as you go across Canada as well as into the U.S.?
Well, musicians who just can't wait to get back out there. We did a little acoustic tour right in front of Christmas. It was just a trio. And I've got a new guitar player from Austin, Texas, playing with me, who is just a fantastic player. We had a really great tour, and it was just so healthy and cathartic to be back on a guitar and back playing shows. You know, it's something I've done all my life, and when you don't do that for a couple of years, it's pretty shocking. You know, it's like a part of your life is gone. So I know we're all going to be really glad to get up there. You know, we're playing Massey Hall in Toronto, which would be great. The Queen Elizabeth here in Vancouver. I can't wait for that. I've played there, but I've never played there under my own show. And so I can't wait for that. And, you know, doing what we do for a living, I think for all of us, it's been pretty hard. You know, there's a lot of us in the industry, you know, I'm the face of my outfit, but playing with me are a lot of musicians and crew and technicians. And for all of us, it's been, you know, pretty strange couple of years. So hopefully we get out there in this Canadian tour. I know we're also really looking forward to the Buddy Guy tour, because we start in Los Angeles, and we're playing Austin City Limits with Buddy in Austin, which is, I can't wait for that. So looking forward to that.
Wonderful. Well, I have to do a quick mention. We got a little intel from our mutual friend. You do that On the Couch series on YouTube, and I always notice there's a dog on the couch somewhere. Here's a question. How do you choose?
Yeah, we have a lot of...
How do you choose which one gets to star?
Maggie's my oldest dog. She's our golden doodle. And as soon as we start, we don't put her there. I mean, she just knows she loves to be on a couch with anybody. So she just hits it immediately, you know, and I love that dog.
And you have 4 dogs, so yeah, you're definitely, you've become more of a favorite of mine already.
Yeah, 4 dogs. We have 2 rescues and two that we you know, actually bought, and we just couldn't say no to the last one, a massive sheepdog, and she thinks she's about this big, but she's clearly not. She's more like the size of a small cow.
Listen, it's been great having you on, pal. We've been wanting to have you on for a while, and we wanted to time it perfectly. I know you're heading out on tour like yesterday kind of thing, so we wish you luck with that. We'll definitely be at the show Vancouver, March 11th. Fingers crossed that everything stays the same. We can only say as much as we can say. But also, congratulations on this great new album. Your career has certainly been a storied one. More information, by the way, it's colinjames.com with all his tour dates listed there. Colin, thanks for joining us on Our City Tonight.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Colin.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
This segment was sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
He's an American author who specializes in Hollywood history and World War II. He has written books on icons like Jimmy Stewart, Carole Lombard. He's written several involving Errol Flynn, who we should mention died here in Vancouver in 1959. His bylines have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine, and plenty of others. In 2019, he wrote the best-selling book, Dutch Girl, Audrey Hepburn and World War II. His latest novel is a follow-up to that called Warrior, Audrey Hepburn. Joining us from Pittsburgh, it's great to welcome author Robert Madsen. Robert, welcome to Our City Tonight.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be with you.
Great to have you, sir. I was saying to you before we went on camera that I have been a big fan of this woman's work since I was a kid, but I really didn't know a lot about elements of her personal life. We'll get to the earlier years when we have time at the end. But let's talk about the new book, which really focuses on, I guess, in hindsight, her final chapter where she's looking for new challenges. Danny Kaye, who is the UNICEF spokesman, the great legendary Danny Kaye, he dies in the mid-'80s, and it kind of comes to Audrey Hepburn. I love that you say, hey, they expected her to just be the glamour princess who could raise money at galas, but she really hit her stride in the latter part of her life. You pick it up from there.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what started me down this path, was that Luca Dotti, Audrey's son, said to me those very words, that UNICEF expected this pretty princess to raise money at galas, and what they got was a badass soldier. And I didn't know what he meant at the time, but what he meant was that this was a fearless woman who left her very comfortable. She had the greatest retirement in the world that she left behind to go into the worst places on earth and do just very courageous things in a number of ways. And that was the story that he wanted me to tell, and that's the story that I discovered as I went along.
There's so many, you talk a bit about going into these places and people saying, gosh, how could she do that? You kind of jump back to your earlier book about her early years, which again, I knew very little about. I knew where she had come from and her path to Hollywood. But when you talk a bit about what she lived under as a child, it's almost like she was tapping into that. She's living in Nazi-occupied Holland. I guess those kind of experiences never leave you, and jump ahead 50 years and she's in that environment where people are saying, how is she doing this?
Yeah, so she sort of specialized in going into war zones, civil wars in particular, in countries around the world. And UNICEF was afraid when she started doing that she would just take one look at the conditions and leave immediately and never come back. But she had been through Nazi occupation. She had lived through the Battle of Arnhem in 1944. She had survived the hunger winter of winter 1944 when she almost starved to death. And all of these things combined to give her what she felt was a social obligation to help people who needed help. Give voice to the voiceless, she said, because she had been there, she had been through it, and she needed to give back.
I wanted to also mention you and what you do, and I mentioned some of your other books where you dealt with Hollywood icons, Jimmy Stewart, Carole Lombard. You really do go that extra mile. I mean, I'd like to think all authors go that extra mile, but you talk a bit about some of the things you did, like in terms of, say, researching Jimmy Stewart, and I had no idea about the PTSD that he suffered after 4 years in the Army, which he volunteered for in World War II when he had a thriving Hollywood career. Talk a bit about what you like to do in terms of going that extra level below to give what other authors may not do.
Well, when I said to my wife, hey, I need to go to Europe, let's go to Europe, she was thinking, Europe. But what I needed to do was go to Tibenham in East Anglia, to the air base that Jimmy Stewart was at in 1943 and 1944. And so I could experience what he experienced at the same time of year when he arrived in England to start his service there. And it's a muddy, dank, cold place. But you need to do that. You need to go there and do those things, as far as I'm concerned, to get a feel for what it was like for him. He landed there on Thanksgiving Day in 1943 in a B-24 bomber. I was on those runways. I was in his barracks, which is now a chicken coop in a farm in England. When I wrote a book about Carole Lombard's plane crash, I had to climb the mountain to the wreckage that's still there after all these years, because I wanted to know, part of the story is the first responders climbing that mountain in the snow to reach her plane. And what's that like? Can I imagine it? Sort of, but can I make it authentic? No, not unless I'm there. It's my approach. It might be kind of crazy, but it's the way I like to do these things. And with Audrey Hepburn, same thing. I went to the Netherlands, walked in her footsteps, was at the places she lived, talked to people who knew her. All these things are critical to telling an authentic story.
That may be crazy, as you said, but I hope you continue with that craziness. Anybody that's a fan of Hollywood should be checking out Robert's books, including this one, Warrior. It's the last part of Audrey Hepburn's life. We were talking about Carole Lombard, who was taken way too soon. Miss Hepburn, taken way too soon as well. The book is called Warrior, Audrey Hepburn. It's the sequel to Dutch Girl, the best-selling book, Dutch Girl, Audrey Hepburn in World War II. Robert, thanks for joining us from Pittsburgh, a great sports town. Really appreciate you joining us to talk about this great new book. Hepburn fans will want to read this and its prequel. Robert, thanks for joining us on this episode of Our City Tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate
welcome,
it.
sir. Cheers.
Well, this creative duo is the commercial, lifestyle, and portrait photography team of Zuckerman and Wong, working together for 3 years now. Welcome, Charles Zuckerman and Zena Wong, to our city tonight.
Pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you guys. We've been trying to get you on the show for a little while. And okay, well, I'm just going to jump right into it. How did you two meet?
Well, it's actually kind of interesting. We met at a fine art nude show that friends were putting on, and Zena had just graduated from school. Neither of us are really into that kind of photography per se. And we sort of found each other in this sort of mixed up space. And it started us chatting, and I asked her if she would come and assist part-time. And by the time we were finished working together for about 3 months, it became apparent that she knew a lot about things that I didn't know about. And I just said, why don't we just partner? And that's how it went.
Perfect. Now, yeah. Okay, tell me your version.
Well, yeah, so I had just graduated from Langara, and I just done photo school, and I met him at this show, and he was like, yeah, I'm looking for an assistant. I'm like, oh, great, I've worked with other photographers before, I could totally come help you too. And then it turned out we lived really close to each other in the neighborhood. We're both in Kits, which was like, oh, this is kind of a nice surprise. And then it just turned out that the workflow just kind of clicked. All of his strengths are, I would say, kind of opposite to what I have. And I don't know, it's hard to describe. I can't really put it into words. I always joke that he's gonna be the only husband I'll ever have as a 25-year-old lesbian, because there's just some kind of compatibility there. We just have great, what is the word for it?
Simpatico, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, your work together definitely reflects that. Now, I've known Charles for a while from the fashion industry and you running around and getting the perfect shot. There has been a lot of perfect shots lately of celebrities. You guys have attracted that whole genre in a big way in Vancouver. Explain and tell our viewers a little bit about what's going on in that area of your photography.
Well, I started out as an actor in the business, and I've done a fair amount of work, and I was lucky enough to meet a lot of people in this community. And so that is where my community started, was with the actors. So when we started teaming up together and we wanted to do creative work, it seemed natural to move towards fellow creatives in the acting field. And slowly but surely, a lot of the people that are working a lot in Vancouver and in LA started coming to see us and started to come and shoot with us. And we've had a real chance to engage, become a family with a lot of these people. So a lot of these people, when they're out of town and they're living in LA, they're coming back here, they're spending time with us, we're having dinner with them, and then we're shooting with them again. And some of the people that we've had the pleasure of shooting with has been unbelievable. One of the people is Adrian Holmes, who you know exceptionally well, hometown hero. And he has just been on a booking spree. He did 19.2, which is probably my favorite Canadian show ever. He is now, I don't know what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say, but he's in a very big TV show that's coming up that is part of a larger franchise, and it's now public. He's going to be Uncle Phil in The Prince of Bel-Air. And some of the shoots that we've had with Adrian have been unbelievable. He's a very giving, loving man. And there's one shot that I'm hoping that we can share with you, which is a picture of Adrian with his hands over his face like this, with almost like a mask made with his hands, that is so poignant and speaks so strongly to who he is. And when you get to shoot people like that, and in those kind of atmospheres, that's what the work is all about.
Speaking of the atmosphere, what is the atmosphere at your studio working together? Tell us a little bit about the dynamics between you two.
Oh, well, we love to have a lot of fun. Every shoot, we strive to, get to know our clients, but also keep the mood light, and to, he's always hamming it up, and we're always running some kind of jokes back and forth, and, needling each other a little bit.
It's a little Punch and Judy.
Perfect. Sounds great.
And a lot of disco music.
Oh,
yes, a lot
okay.
of disco. That
Okay,
too.
well, I guess that relaxes the client for sure. You've got a lot of projects. I've seen a lot of your projects because you're very prolific online, which is great because I feel like I've met Zena before. But the Test Lab, In Your Space, Actors from Away, some new projects that are on the line. Can we finish up with some of the new projects that you're looking at
Yeah, we had a really good run with a project called Sunday Portrait Sessions. That's something that we're going to be donating to the archives in the city of Vancouver, showing a lot of the actors, celebrities, and people who've really made an imprint creatively in Vancouver. And that was really geared towards small, intimate portraiture, really close. So we've now decided to move into a broader canvas work where you see a larger scene, you see a larger story, and we're pulling back. So one of the projects we're working on is In Your Space, which will be geared to capturing creatives and industry leaders in the space they're in, telling the story of them. And then another one is the Test Lab, which is geared to our new studio, which we will be spending at least 50% of the time in our new studio, which is in the City Center Hotel on Main and 7th, which is a new artist lodge. So you arrive to our studio and it will be a motel room. And when you come in, for 50% of the time, it's going to be a creative experience where we will test and play with lighting. So it's never the idea of, we want to get this, what can we find? What will we find? So the Test Lab is that. And I'll leave Actors on the Road.
Yeah, so Actors from Away is a project that we started because we have so many actor friends, right? And you know, they're always traveling to shoot different shows and productions, and we figured it would be kind of cool to get portraits of them in their hotel rooms or wherever they're staying when they're away from home to do their job. And we've been super lucky so far. We've managed to shoot quite a few out in Toronto, as well as here in Vancouver at like the Sun Place Hotel and all that. From the most memorable shot probably from this series is we've got Alex Ponovic in the bathtub, in a bubble bath.
Yes, that is an awesome
at the Shangri-La in
shot.
Toronto.
That's awesome. Well, that's Zuckerman and Wong, Charles Zuckerman and Zena Wong. Great creative duo. You'll see lots more coming from them, I'm sure, in the future. You'll have all their details in our rolling credits at the end of the show. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you. As you said, I've been wanting to sit with you guys for ages, so this is a real pleasure.
We're looking forward to doing some work with you too. All right, take care.
It is the first authorized biography of Oscar-winning actor James Coburn, covering his career, romances, friendships, and his spirituality. It's thoroughly researched with unparalleled access to Coburn's friends and family. This is wonderful to get a chance to read this book if you're a fan of James or Jimmy Coburn. We've got his daughter-in-law. She is the author, Robin Coburn, who is coming to us from somewhere in the States. Robin, I didn't get a chance to ask you, but welcome to our city tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm actually in Mid-City, Los Angeles, California.
Okay. Listen, first of all, congratulations on this book. As I mentioned in the opening there, for people that are fans of this iconic actor, it was just such a great page turner. Pete Hammond, the film critic, I think said it best. He said, just a true gift for anybody who wants to know more about Coburn. Talk a bit about how this came to you to write this. I didn't realize there'd never really been an authorized biography of him. How did it come to you, his daughter-in-law?
There actually hadn't been any kind of biography, really, let alone the authorized one. Well, it's an interesting story. When he passed away, his then wife Paula had started a foundation, the James and Paula Coburn Foundation, and she had made it her big goal to publish a biography. He'd been working on his memoirs by recording taped conversations just before he passed away and in the year before he passed. And unfortunately, that never turned into anything, but it did become the backbone of this book.
There were so many great things about this book that I loved. I mean, he's always known as the tough guy. He had that image, but there was so much more depth to this man who spent most of his life spiritually searching, personally, but also as an actor. And I loved his comparison to the lessons he learned from Count Basie, the great jazz artist, about form and the dynamics and everything. That there was so much depth to this man that most people maybe didn't know if they just knew him by his movies like In Like Flint and The Great Escape, movies like that, Magnificent Seven. But it was so great to see that side of the depth of this man highlighted in your book.
Oh, thank you. Yes, he really was a spiritual seeker. He'd started from a young age when some of his friends from college were introducing him to different things. And then when he for light reading, he would read books on philosophy and ancient religions. That was his entertainment. Even when he was in the army, I think there's a photograph of him with his pockets full of books. And he really was very interested in what I guess we would call New Age or esoteric religions and spiritual paths at the time. And as for jazz, he had two great music loves. One was jazz and one was classical music. And I think people are more familiar with his love of jazz because he talked about it more, but he also loved classical music. He was a big fan of Stravinsky. So I think if you went to his house at any time, you might find him playing the drums, playing the gong, practicing the flute, listening to jazz, listening to classical music. There would always be this sort of music going on at the house. And I remember him playing music at the house too.
And also famous for playing the gong on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Yes.
It was also just a true Renaissance man. I'd highly recommend people read this book if you are even a casual fan. I loved the way things ended for him professionally with an Oscar, a long overdue Oscar, for a great film called Affliction, which a lot of actors in his age category might have been too afraid or intimidated to play, but he was always looking for those roles. Robin, thank you so much for joining us for this. I'm so glad this book got written. I've been a fan of this man since I was a child, and so great to see that how seriously he took his art, despite the fact he did a lot of fun movies too, we should say. So, Robin, look for the book here.
Loved his work. Loved his work.
Loved his work.
Acting.
Yeah, loved it. Check this book out. Robin, thank you so much. You can also check out, we'll have all Robin's information in our closing credits. And Robin, because there's so much that you do, including helping people with resumes and building careers, that I want to mention that as well. So we'll have all that in the closing credits. Robin, thank you for joining us, and thank you again for this wonderful book.
Thank you for having me. Goodbye now.
Bye-bye. Well, we're back here on the way up to Cypress Bowl, where we began the show, and it's time to end this show.
Yeah, it's time to say goodbye, but before we do, want to remind you, you can catch all of our past episodes of Our City Tonight on our YouTube channel, and also connect with us on all of our social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, as well as Facebook.
We should also mention you can also catch our show on the new CHEK TV streaming app. I'm Jim Gordon.
I'm Lita Leafins.
We'll see you on the next edition of Our City Tonight. Outdoor wear for Jim and Lita provided by Helly Hansen, alive since 1877.
Soluzione Spa Products, a national luxury spa product distribution company located in North Vancouver, British Columbia.
The Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
While in Whistler, Our City Tonight stayed at the Blackcomb Lodge, serving guests in the heart of the village since 1980.